Torah. Fine. So I'll just say a little bit what I think. A person has two sorts of questions. Sometimes you have a question, and the answer comes because you're lacking whatever. You're lacking a certain intellectual information or whatever. It takes an intellectual flash in order to discover the answer. However, sometimes you have a question, and the only way to be able to answer it is through working on yourself, and then through your own personal avodah, so a person can discover what the answer is and how am I supposed to function in this situation. So the question that always bothered me, that the Gemara says in Sukkah that the smallest Talmud of Philozophim was the Birenbaum Zakai, and he never stopped Kalis v'Chamurei, Sifra, Sifri, Gemara, Agariso, Kalis v'Chamurei, Sichas Sheidim, Sichas Malachi Ashari. So basically that means that he never stopped thinking about all these different areas in the Torah, about logical inferences, and learning the Talmud, learning Midrash, learning halachic drushes, learning all sorts of things, Mishnah, Chumash. Fine. Acceptable. But then there's another Gemara in Brachas that always puzzles me. The Gemara says, Rabbi Yoshua ben Zakkai, that not once did one goy, he didn't say hello to in the shul. He didn't say hello in the marketplace. So, he told it in English, I know you understand. So I never understood because it's a very funny imagery when you think about it. Simon from the palace, the money Ethiopian worker. And it's a very funny sphere, very funny imagery. So you could say, no, he just had these times of concentration, and that's who he was, and you can close the book. But whenever I thought about it a little bit, it could be a very different point. And this is one of such questions of the latter type. So, 4 years ago, I picked up my meager belongings and came to this country to learn yeshiva. And whatever, Baruch Hashem, over the years things change, and obviously everyone knows that learning is not about having more information, or about, it's not even just about doing more things right or becoming tzaddik, but that there has to be a change in the person himself. So what? The change in the person himself. So if someone asked me, what did you take out of your years in yeshiva? What changed, Biklal? So I would say that what changed is I live in a different place than I lived 4 years ago. And I don't mean the country is different. That I live in a different place. The world around me doesn't look the same that it looked 4 years ago. It's not comparable at all. When I look around, I see different things. What catches my attention, not the same thing that used to catch my attention. But when I see something, the thoughts that it triggers are not the same thoughts that it used to trigger. Everything is an illusion from something different that it used to be an illusion to. Everything I see, it's not the same place to live. It's entirely not the same place to live. And to me, that would seem, I mean, you ask me how you're not a mathematician, so how do I know what it's like to be a mathematician? Because it used to be less of a mathematician. So I know it feels like to be more of a mathematician. So I think that, and like this is the Rambam that says in Moreh Nevuchim, Chelek Gimel, Paragraph Aleph in the Ha'ara, that I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, that I saw this, or not, I saw this 4 years ago. Someone in yeshiva showed it to me, and it really became my mantra, or whatever, my Torah, throughout the year. So what I would like to try to aspire to, and of course it's a huge madrega, and he said, don't even think all the Nevi'im reached the madrega, so whatever, it's a tough shot. But he said that but it was the madrega of Moshe and all the Avos, that every second their minds were occupied with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and that they never lost sight of him, and everything they did, even when they were involved in the most, Avram was a shepherd, and they were all shepherds, and they took care of money, and they had all sorts of things to do, and they had ambassadors with Avimelech, and all these things going on, but no matter where they were, there was a Kadosh Baruch Hu. You could say again, you could say no, that's just because they had great concentration, because they knew how in the middle of a business deal to be thinking about Shai for the palace. But that's not the point. The point is that they lived in a world which spoke to them of Kadosh Baruch Hu. They lived in a place where Kadosh Baruch Hu was there. So when they were herding sheep, of course it doesn't distract from Kadosh Baruch Hu. Because I see Kadosh Baruch Hu in the sheep, I see Kadosh Baruch Hu in everything I do. So that's what I think is the change that occurs in a person. And same thing with Rabbi Yoshua ben Zakkai. Of course, if you're trying to think in learning, and then you have to say that love someone, so it bogs with your concentration. But if everything in the world you see speaks to Kadosh Baruch Hu, when you see a Kadosh Baruch Hu, when you see the sugya that you learned this morning, you see the sugya that you learned last month, so then it's not very difficult that after you said hello, you'll keep on going weiter, you keep on going forward in your learning, because that's where I am. My world is learning, my world is Torah, my world is the Kadosh Baruch Hu. It doesn't distract me, that's where I am. And if you ask me what changed the past 4 years, I'd say that the world is a different place to live. The Rav Yerucham says in the very end of Tach Chelek Gimel, a line which struck me very powerfully, that he has Tzuras Yeshiva Seinu Mahi. What is the format of our yeshiva? I know that translation. What's the format of our yeshiva? It says, to live specifically in the depths of halacha and not to live the life of a simpleton. And that will is the life where things aren't just as they see on the surface, but that they show much more. That was something that was maybe like, so Be'ez Hashem, I'll finish Menachos, which will conclude my learning of the Talmud Bas. Be'ez Hashem, never know what's happening. 60 minutes. Fine, so the Mishnah says like this. It says regarding an animal sacrifice of a cow or a male cow, an ox, it says that it's a pleasant smell to Hashem. When it comes to a bird, which is a little less quality, it also says it's also a pleasing smell. Which is just flour, it also says it also says that it's a pleasant smell. Whether you do a lot, whether you do a little, as long as you're intending towards heaven. Which means that you should do as much or as little depending on how much Shem Shemaim you have. Not that you should do a little with Shem Shemaim. It means however much Shem Shemaim would require you, that's how much you should do. Amr B'Deir Maikra, so what's the public for this? I don't really understand the Mishnah spoken, but he says, the sweet is the year of the worker. Whether he eats a lot, whether he has a little or a lot, he'll eat. Which Rashi learns that pleasant is the year of the worker, Ho'evid Hashem. That means someone who's Hashem. Whether he does a little, whether he does a lot, Yoichal, he'll have the Torah in Olam Haba. Rav Acha Bar Abba, Amar Mihacha, different public. Everybody says, when you have lots of goods, so they not only have is more people to eat it, and what does it do for the master? Meaning, Rashi learns that whether you have a lot of korbanos, so the kohanim have more to eat, but the Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't make a difference how much you have. Fine. I want to show you what's said in the parsha of korbanos.